Social movements can create a huge impact in the world, and particularly in Nigeria, and its impact can trigger necessary changes that can transform the socio-economic and political fabrics of the country. However, can we safely posit that the presidential campaign of Mr. Peter Obi and Dati Ahmed, which is now popularly known as the Obedient Movement, is a social movement? But what is a social movement, and what makes some of these movements so successful, and how were they able to succeed?
The challenge of Nigeria as a free state in 20th century Africa is the need to revive the stature of man in Africa and restore the dignity of man in the world. Nigerians believe passionately in the fundamental human rights. We regard all races of the human family as equal. Under no circumstance shall we accept the idea that the black race is inferior to any other race.
I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream. My poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream.
According to Wikipedia, a social movement is a loosely organized effort by a large group of people to achieve a particular goal, typically a social or a political one. This may be to carry out a social change, or to resist or to undo one. It is a type of group action that may involve individuals, organizations, or both. Social movements have been described as organizational structures and strategies that may empower oppressed populations to mount effective challenges and resist the more powerful and advantaged elites. They represent a method of social change from the bottom within nations. Political science and sociology experts have developed a variety of theories and empirical research on social movements. For example, some research in political science highlights the relation between popular movements and the formation of new political parties, as well as discussing the functions of social movements in relation to agenda settings and influence on politics. Social movements have been and continue to be closely connected with democratic political systems. Occasionally, social movements have been involved in democratizing nations, but more often they have flourished after democratization. Over the past 200 years, they have been part of a popular and global expression of dissent. Modern movements often use technology and the internet to mobilize people globally. Adapting to communication trend is a common theme among successful movements. Research is beginning to explore how advocacy organizations linked to social movements in the US and Canada, even in Nigeria, use social media to facilitate civic engagement and collective actions. In summary, social movements are behind the most powerful changes around the world, from voting rights to political upheaval and the fight for racial equality. Social movements can change mindsets, enact laws, and shift policies, but only if they succeed. So So, what are the features of a movement that can hold the attention of leaders and involve millions of participants?
Yeah, social movements are supposed to be the coming together or the agglomeration of people, the ordinary people, or the people that wants to create a change. So it's supposed to be social movement. It's supposed to be like an organization or a group of people that provides members of that group a platform to be able to have a sense that their voice can be heard. Social movements is like a vehicle that people tend to use to convey other people, majority of the people, towards a particular destination, towards a particular, towards achieving particular objectives. But one thing that we must also clarify in this our current generation is that there seems to be a missing link, between what social movement really is and what we think social movement is at the moment. And that is because we are kind of living in the...
There have been social movements in the past that have succeeded. But what makes a successful social movement prosper as opposed to the social movements that will get forgotten over time? For example, one of the earliest social movements of the 18th century was the Chartist movement in Britain, 12 months. After the passing of the Reform Act 1832, which failed to extend the votes beyond those owning property, the political leader of the working class made speeches claiming that they have been a great act of betrayal. This sense that the working class had been betrayed by the middle class was strengthened by the action of the Whig government of 1830s. Notably, the hated New Poor Law Amendment, which was passed in 1834, deprived working people of outdoor relief and driving the poor into workhouses where families were separated. The massive wave of opposition to this measure in the north of England in the late 1830s created and made Chartism a mass movement. Chartism was a working class movement for political reform in the United Kingdom that erupted from 1838 to 1857 and was strongest in 1839, 1842 and 1848. It took its name from the People's Charter of 1838 and was a national protest movement with particular strongholds of support in northern England, the East Midlands, the Staffordshire Potteries, the Black Country and the South Wales Valley. The movement was fiercely opposed by government authorities who finally suppressed it. Support for the movement was at its highest when petitions signed by millions of working people were presented to the House of Commons. The strategy employed was to use the scale of support which these petitions and the accompanying masses meetings demonstrated to put pressure on politicians to concede manhood suffrage. Chartism thus relied on constitutional methods to secure its aim, though some became involved in insurrectionary activities, notable in South Wales and in Rockshire. Chartists saw themselves fighting against political corruption and for democracy in an individual society, but attracted support beyond the radical political groups for economic reasons such as wage cuts and unemployment. Eventually, Britain adopted the first 5 reforms.
Looking back into history, we have seen that attention is not power, okay? Especially when you try to analyze social movement. Over time, we have come to the conclusion that attention is not power. And so, no matter how we are in the social media era, no matter the attention you generate on social media, it cannot translate to power until you are able to organize your members or the people that are in that movement to be able to achieve the objectives of that movement. And so what am I trying to say? Most times we also realize that most people that kind of put together these social movements, especially the generation, they tend to think that attention is power. That is not true. That is not true. And most times they have this mindset because they think mobilizing is the same thing as organizing. Now, there needs to be clarification for these persons. Mobilizing is not the same thing as organizing. And so when you are mobilizing on social media, with one hashtag, it can go viral. With one quote, it can go viral. With one photo or one video, you can go viral. But what is the lifespan of that attention that you are having? We have seen viral videos that over a period of 1 month has vanished. It has lost momentum, has lost every sense of relevance. Okay, and so that needs to be understood. For you to be able to achieve your objective as a social movement, you need to now move from mobilizing to organizing. And that is where the issue of in the case of Peter Obi campaign, people were accusing it that it does not have a structure. Now that is, in the real sense, that is what people ought to say, that how are you organizing this movement online to become formidable on ground? How are you being able to now put faces to some of these hashtag moments that you are having? And so it is important that we make these clarifications. And while Peter Obi campaign to a large degree can be said to have turned into a movement, it's also because it had the same bearing or some level of bearing with the NSAS movement, whereby they were not having any core strategy, as in this is what we have planned before that we are going to do. It just evolves like a spark. Okay, and so it has some semblance. So yes, the Obi campaign Obi campaign, presidential campaign, can be likened to a social movement in the sense that it was a spark that just happened based on the personality of Mr. Peter Obi.
The 2023 presidential election campaign in Nigeria entered its full swing at the instance of the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) as they released the 2023 electoral timetable in November 2022. At the conclusion of the registered party primary election, INEC approved 18 candidates to contest for the presidential election, and among these candidates were Mr. Peter Obi. Prior to the presidential election campaign, many of the Nigerian youth seem to believe that under the watch of President Buhari, Nigeria has gone from being a failed state to a dead one. According to observers, although Nigeria has habitually been plagued by bad governance and corporate ineptitude, it has never been this bad. Nigeria has never been divided along ethnic and religious lines as they were between 2015 to 2023. In fact, many think that almost everything that could go wrong has gone wrong in Nigeria. In addition to the perennial problem that have beveiled Nigeria over the years, there's now a colossal systemic failure on the part of government of the day. There's mediocrity, there's nepotism, there's ineptitude, there's incompetence, there's propaganda, and there's dictatorship. This sense of foreboding and resentment led to the NSAS campaign of 2020, leading to innocent and unarmed protests being arrested, tortured, and brutally murdered, while to the youth, terrorists and bandits are forgiven and even rewarded. Also, case of headsmen who have been wreaking havoc across Nigeria are treated as sacred cows, while Nigerian youths who are rightfully protesting bad governance are the scapegoats. Ironically, in his 2015 presidential election campaigns, the current president Buhari promised to bring change to the Nigerian people, and that change was a promise many Nigerians craved for and look forward to embracing. It was a promise that endeared Buhari to Nigerians, a promise that made him win the 2015 presidential election on a gold platter. However, about 8 years down the line, it became obvious that the change was not going to happen. For example, in his electioning campaign, President Buhari promised to create 3 million jobs per year. Ironically, in the 8 years of his administration, many Nigerian youths have lost their jobs, as many companies, local and international, have either collapsed or relocated to neighboring countries. No thanks to Buhari's harsh economic tripling, the rate of unemployment has tripled from May 2015 to 2023. Again, Buhari promised to run an inclusive government in which the youths will have a voice, even a cabinet member. But the youngest minister in Buhari's cabinet is 47 years old Sadia Umar Farouk, with the rest age averaging 61 years old, meaning that the youths are completely out of the picture. Rather than being empowered, Nigerian youths have been reduced to a bunch of frustrated citizens, even as universities continue their incessant strike, leaving many of them working as political thugs and agents of destruction in the hands of politicians. In a nutshell, Nigerian youths are furious because of fundamental issues. They are furious at the lack of basic amenities. They are furious about the lack of electricity, bad road, the distorted academic calendar. They are furious about the absence of security and the lack of enabling environment for entrepreneurship. They are furious that they can't even live without constantly walking on eggshells. The youth are furious about everything.
The other one, that one, I think na statistic we go chop. A lie with arithmetic that never, no Indian can solve it. To mention his name is a disgrace to myself. I won't mention the name. Wrong arithmetic, wrong statistics, warehouse economy, and that's not what Nigeria needs.
People who say they are obedient, of course, let them be, but they will run out of steam. We know how to manage elections. How many people have been able to do what we are doing? They can't even form their campaign council, not to talk about having timetable for elections. You get it? So this election is ours to lose, and by the grace of God, we will not lose it.
In March 2022, Mr. Peter Gregory Obi declared his interest to run for the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. Obi made the declaration while addressing traditional rulers and President General of the 181 committees in Anambra State of the Government House, Oka. In his declaratory speech, he stated that after a careful study of the country, I noticed that we are too divided, and I promise to lead a united and secure Nigeria to be able to attract foreign investment. The Nigeria I would lead will create jobs, boost our economy, improve education. If I have the opportunity, I will turn around the country for the better, he said. Continuing, the former governor added, "I will move Nigeria from a consuming nation to a producing nation. As a Nigerian, I want all parts of the country to be secured. I'm not aspiring for a political position, but to serve the country better." Okay. One of the legacies of the obedience movement is the new wave of consciousness spreading across Nigeria that has increased youth's participation in politics. Nigeria's youth had previously lost trust in the electoral process they perceive as marred with corruption. The obedience movement has, through its campaign for a better Nigeria, revived their interest in political participation. Young Nigerians have shaken off their complacency and are demonstrating their unwillingness to accept another round of political failings. The movement's political mantra, "A New Nigeria is Possible," has been a rallying call for Nigerians' newly politically conscious youths. It is not surprising that the youths, who are primarily divided by their admiration and fealty to Obi, are also united by their disgust with the country's failing leadership and the hope that their votes can contribute to the process of birthing a new Nigeria. Regardless of whether the obedience movement translates into electoral victory or not, it has been successful in inspiring a generation to be politically conscious. That is a great victory for Nigerians' democracy.